All right, we're going to add someone into this conversation here. Rarely does this happen, but Chris Jericho apparently cannot get enough of this program, so is now back on the air wanting to chat with Dave Meltzer as well.
What happened was when I found out you were kicking me off the show for Meltzer, I got so angry and called back on the fan line. Yeah. I had to say this is Chris from Winnipeg, and
Apparently that's what you do now. You just call into random radio shows and you just start rumors.
Well, yeah, like you said, you read online that I'm at war with the WWE, so I can't get a job in wrestling, so I just call in wrestling shows and then just try and fit in.
Well, we now have you have perhaps the man that we may have read the rumors and about.
I never said a war.
Uh-oh, here we go.
War. I just was saying before, Dave, that I thought if there was ever a time to take a chance on somebody new, that it would be tonight. And that was the thing. There was a lot of comparisons between Ryback and Goldberg. And the reason why Goldberg got so over was A, his intensity, and B, the fact he beat everybody. And I just thought it'd be interesting from a fan standpoint, and not knowing anything about the booking or what's going on there, that if they're ever going to do it, just give it a try and see what happens. Maybe they could have created a legitimate money-making, ratings-drawing star by having him go over, because I don't think anybody thought that he would. So that's why I was just thought it'd be something very interesting. If you're ever going to do it, now was the time.
Yeah, I mean, there was a momentum there in the last 2 weeks. I mean, one of the things I was thinking of coming into this was actually as much Goldberg as Ultimate Warrior, even though Ultimate Warrior was actually in the company for longer. I kept thinking, if Ultimate Warrior would have gone in there in that match with Hogan and actually lost the match,
right?
20 years later, I mean, everyone still talks about Ultimate Warrior. They talk about that match, and they talk about, like him as an all-time great, so to speak. Whether he was that great or not, people he had great memories of this guy. And if he would have lost that match to Hogan, I think he would have been just another Kamala and one-man gang or King Kong Bundy that, was up there, had a title match, and then was kind of forgotten. And that was one of the reasons why, the week of the match, I kept thinking, you know what? The momentum's kind of there, and, Punk's bulletproof anyway. I mean, the way I look at it.
Right.
And that's
especially
why
the heel.
Beating him wasn't going to hurt him.
Heels are built to lose, and in a situation like that, they could have come out and ran the whole show for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, Punk and Heyman complaining, bitching, the odds were against us, Hell in a Cell. Now, no matter what kind of spin they put on it, and Punk is amazing. Like you said, Punk owns the show now. But whatever the spin they put on it, Ryback lost. And he lost by getting kicked in the nuts by a referee. And it doesn't matter how it ended off. It doesn't matter what he did on top of the cage. All that matters is when it came down to it, he lost. And I just think that, to me, as same as you, as same as all of us on the line, we're all fans, and that's why we got into this business in the first place. As a fan, you always want the unexpected. You always want something new. And it just seems to me that would have been a perfect time to just try it, see how it goes. What if Cena broke his ankle and was out for 6 months and not 6 weeks? Who would be the top babyface then? There's nobody. So I just thought, there's a perfect opportunity. And we can all agree, Ultimate Warrior was never a good worker. But like you said, I remember Ultimate Warrior as being one of my favorites because he had intensity, he had the music, he had the look, he had the vibe, and they put him over when they had to put him over.
Well, here's where we are today, though. I mean, you've heard the finish, Chris. I know you haven't had the chance to see it. Dave, you have had the chance to see it. So where do we go from here with this Ryback character? Because if your theory is correct, Dave, we do have a loss here. And is he just going to become, as you said, another Kamala one-man gang and just kind of, he's going to be passed
down
over
the card?
Here?
Yeah.
Or are we going to see him continue to be pushed? They tried to do the justification afterwards with beating Punk up. But what do you do now to keep him strong? Or do you let him go away?
I think that, with Cena being ready and everything, I think that you probably go with, some sort of a three-way or maybe a four-way, put some and get somebody else in that mix. I just don't see dropping him. But then again, if he's not going to win the title, maybe it's the best thing to take him out of that mix for a little while until, because if he keeps failing, this is like once. If he keeps failing, then that's not necessarily the best thing for him either. So it's the whole thing with the way the timing worked and being a Hell in a Cell. I mean, that's why I thought that actually on the day of the show they would come up and go, you know what? Again, I mean, one of the if they were not so weak on depth at the top, I probably wouldn't have even thought for a second about the idea of Ryback winning. But when you are, it's kind of like, well, you know what? I mean, why don't you give it a try? And the other thing is like if he caught fire, then, hey, because you never know what's going to catch fire.
That's the thing, and people want to see something new, right? And if he would have won the title, that's it. Like, the fans put their stock in baby faces. And in WWE for years, it's been the stop and start push. If fans believe that they have an influence, if I cheer for this guy, he wins. People start, the ball starts rolling, and they know if we cheer, he wins. It's a Pavlovian dog response. But we cheered for him, and he lost. So once again, there's another guy that's like, well, he's just not ready. Who cares if he's ready? That's what guys like Punk do, or guys like me, or guys like Ziggler. You make guys look good. That's what wrestling is all about. It doesn't matter if they've been working for a week or 10 years. All that matters is putting on a show where people think that the guys that they want to win can win. And tonight they had a chance to like, listen, we're starting to get behind this guy. I don't know yet. If you would have won, I guarantee you would have seen a much bigger reaction for the guy tomorrow. And like you just said, Dave, maybe it would have worked, because you never know. And this is the closest thing I've seen in years to catching that lightning in a bottle and not having a guy pay his dues. Who cares about paying dues? That's indie wrestling BS. All that matters is making money and filling the seats.
Well,
and it just seems like it could have been something different and cool that might have worked.
And it does look like they still could go in that direction. I mean, obviously, with this kind of finish, the feud between the two of them shouldn't be over with. So perhaps maybe they will go that way eventually and do something with Ryback.
The thing is, the damage is already done in regards to the loss here. And Chris, we were talking about this earlier in the program, and Dave, we've touched on it before as well, as the parity booking that happens in the WWE. You constantly have a win and then a loss, and a win and then a loss, and it really doesn't make any look special. And Chris, from having been there for so long and dealing, with the bookers and the committee, what's the rationale behind that? Is it to make no one look weak and therefore make everyone look weak at the same time, or what do you deal with?
Enforce the brand.
I don't think they see it that way. I just think there's a lot of people that are still always stuck on paying dues, and forgetting about what wrestling is really all about. And I always go back to Kofi Kingston putting Randy Orton through the table in MSG. That was massively huge. If you go back and watch that reaction, you'll see people going nuts like they never had gone nuts in years. And then, kind of went down again, and Kofi started losing or whatever. And, it's kind of what happened when I worked with Triple H in State College, Pennsylvania, and I won the title, the big time when I won the title. If you watch that now, you'll see crowd reactions that you don't see nowadays. People are so excited. And then, I got stripped from the title, and then at the end of the show, I think lost to 6-man or something, and the moment was gone. Like, had you just gone with it and stuck with it, you just never know what's worked. So I don't think that they ever think of it as parody booking. I think they just keep going back to, like, this guy's not ready, that guy's not ready. But let's be honest. In this day and age, you can't teach experience. And there's not a lot of guys that have experience. So who's ever really going to be ready? It's like, just go with somebody and put the machine behind it and see what happens.
Well, Chris, I tell you who was ready, at least in our opinion here on this show, and it seemed like everybody was ready for him, and I think you were as well, because you left the WWE in your last run, putting Dolph Ziggler over, who looked like he had a rocket attached to his back, and then all of a sudden he goes on a huge losing streak after winning Money in the Bank. I'm baffled by this.
It's weird, because even from my personal experience, it's happened 3 times that I can think of off the top of my head. First time, it happened with Ziggler. Did a big thing. We put him over. He gets Chris Jericho fired, and then goes into what he's been doing now. It happened a couple of years ago with Evan Bourne, when Vince was talking about me working with him, and I said, "You really want to get this guy over? Let's do it." And he's like, "Yes." Evan Bourne beats Chris Jericho. Big upset victory, and then next night I think I beat him on Raw, and then you never saw him again. And the original time it happened was in 2002, when I put over a hot young upstart named John Cena. Huge upset. John Cena beats Chris Jericho. I can't remember the name of the pay-per-view. It was in Detroit. And then I got traded to Raw. He stayed on SmackDown, and then I watched SmackDown. He's losing every week after that, and didn't do anything for like a year until he started doing the rap thing. So I don't know why. I can't really tell you why it happened. I don't know.
Is it the idea that they just want to make people see the brand rather than having one particular guy stand out? It's just like, this is the overall WWE product? I'm guessing that's part of the reasoning.
Dave will tell you just I am. Vince has always been, you build the company around the main event. That's the way Vince's dad was, and that's the way Vince always was. The main event is what Vince thinks about. Everything else falls into place. So you got to have that guy. You had, Hogan, you had Bret, you had Shawn, and now it's Cena. Sooner or later, somebody else has to take over that the head of the table sort of thing. Who's going to do it? It could have been Ryback just as easily as it could have been anybody. It's hard to guess, and I don't know a lot of the things that Dave probably knows, but it just seems to me that it just goes back to this guy's not ready, and that guy's not ready, and this guy's not ready. Like the bunch of, the guys, the night sitting around the round table debating everything, and just never really getting ahead when it comes to certain guys instead of just going with it and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
The one thing about this is if you look back at wrestling 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and you judge it on that standard, a lot of guys who not only drew money, but helped turn companies around and things like that. And I mean, we're huge stars. By today's standards, you would say they weren't ready because these are guys. I mean, let's face it, these were guys in their early to mid 20s, and a lot of them, like as the Freebirds or something. Terry Gordy ended up being a phenomenal worker, but I can't imagine at 18 years old when he was headlining, or 19 years old when he was headlining, that he was like totally ready in every way, shape, or form. But he had something, and Michael Hayes obviously had something verbally, and there's endless number of guys like that over the years.
Let's look at Undertaker. In was it 1990 he debuted at Survivor Series?
Yeah,
I think so. By today's standards, he probably wasn't ready, but it didn't matter. Things were kind of different then. It's weird to me because back then, even when I got into the WWE in '99, you had a legitimate, 12 legitimate main event headliners with specific characters that all do a promo, all had 10 years experience. Now that's been whittled down to maybe, 4. Maybe, you know what I mean? And it's just like, instead of working to get other guys there as quick as possible, sometimes it seems like it's the other way around. Now, I would never genius to Vince, because Vince is a genius. He really is. About things that none of us would ever think about, and that's his strength. So maybe he has a different idea for Ryback that we haven't thought about that's going to make him 10 times bigger. I don't know. I just know from what I was thinking and feeling, but it really does seem that sometimes now, with the lack of experience, that you have to take a chance, but it's the other way around. They're still waiting for the guy to be ready. But who's ever going to be ready in this day and age when no one really has experience? They have like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. Man, it doesn't, you had a guy like, Eddie Guerrero got to the WWE after working for 12 years, and 8 of those years were as a headlining superstar. That's never going to happen anymore.
Well, guys, unfortunately, at this point, we have to take a break, and we got to call it quits here. But thank you both for hanging out with us and joining us for this little mini roundtable that we had going on. Chris, thanks for calling back in. Apparently, this is what you do now. And Dave, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
All right, that's great.
Good talking to you, Dave, and Lovranski. Suck it.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice to see you. Hear from you too,
Thanks,
brother.
Gentlemen. Well, Dave, we'll talk to you next week. Chris, call in whenever you like.
Exactly. Call anytime. I'm not worried. Call
I
anytime.
like hearing people tell Lovranski to
Mod
suck
Club
it. So
Monday.
It's great. There you go, Mod Club Monday.
That's right. I might have to go down there and cut a promo on him just to get back at him.
All righty. We got to take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side. It's more Live Audio Wrestling, taking your phone calls next. It's The Law. Coming back.